Hey everyone, good morning and good evening. Let's start with today's topic and let's see what exactly we are doing today. Let me quickly share my screen. And let's go back to the project wherein last time what we did, we created a build, ASP.NET build using YAML. That is what we did. Let's go back to that screen again and let's do a quick recap. Okay, so last time this is what the build pipeline we have created, a develop one. Let's go and edit this. This is what we did. We created a build pipeline. We included all the steps. These were branch filter, path filter, followed by the agent tool. We have defined variables. Then these are the steps which we executed in order to create a zip file. Perfect. This is what we did. This is what we called as traditional approach. Okay, wherein we have these are all traditional jobs which is getting executed right now. Tasks are nothing but these are the jobs and the steps which is getting executed in a sequence. Now the other part is the deployment part. Now the deployment part, this is something we had in the deployment. Let's go back and edit this deployment pipeline. And this is something we had a ARM task and we got some Azure App Service task, and in between I think we have added some PowerShell script task also. Where exactly? Yeah. This task also we have added. So we got this 3 tasks which is getting executed using classic method. Now if I want to convert this into YAML, what needs to be done? If I want these steps to be part of my, all these steps should be part of my YAML file itself, to have a complete pipeline as a code methodology. If you want to follow that, even your deployment should be part of your YAML file. Okay, what needs to be done and how that will be done, that is something we'll discuss today. Before that, there is a concept called deployment jobs that we need to understand. Now this deployment job is what exactly it is. Okay, so if you ask me the deployment jobs, so whenever you write YAML pipelines, Microsoft recommends that you put your deployment steps in a special kind of job called as deployment job. That is what Microsoft recommends whenever you're writing YAML kind, just for YAML. So a special kind of job is called deployment job. That is what it is asking you to do it. Deployment jobs. Okay. Now what exactly this special kind of job is all about? So deployment job, basically it will have collection of steps that are run sequentially against your environments. So if you have multiple environments and if you have steps, like these are the steps which needs to be followed. So a deployment job, the whole responsibility, what it will do, it will run steps in a sequential manner with respect to your environment, in a sequential manner with respect to the environment, like if you have multiple environment. So this is what deployment job does. Okay, if you want this traditional job, the list of steps which you are executing, if you want both the deployment and as well as the traditional job can exist in the same YAML, there's no problem at all. Along with this build, if you want to add your deployment task, even that you can do, there's no problem. Okay, What are the key highlights of deployment? Why do you need deployment jobs? To be very specific, one, it will run sequential. Second, it will have the complete deployment history. Okay, you can have the complete deployment history. Basically, what exactly it means, you can get deployment history across pipelines. You can specify resource and status for your deployment auditing. So basically what will happen, you can, by using the deployment job, you can have across your pipelines, you can see what was the status of your pipeline, whether the pipeline was succeeded or not, what type of resources it was using, and things like that. So it can basically use for auditing purpose. It can also help you apply different deployment strategy, like how you want your changes to be rolled out. So if I talk about features, a deployment history, I'll show you this deployment history in a minute, don't worry. And you can even have different deployment strategy. Different deployment strategy. These are the two main benefit of using deployment jobs. Okay. Now, what are the strategies? There are three different types of strategy which you will come across when you're working with deployment jobs. Strategies in deployment jobs. These are deployment strategies, guys, very important in deployment jobs. What are the three different strategies you can use? The first strategy you will come across is run once. The second strategy which you will come across will be rolling deployment. The third strategy which you will come across will be canary deployment. Okay, now let's understand the strategy one at a time before we actually move on and start preparing things from scratch. Okay, run once is the simplest deployment strategy wherein all the lifecycle hooks. So in deployment you get multiple hooks, like you got pre-deployment stage, you have your deployment stage, you will have your post-deployment stage, on failure what you need to do, on success what you need to do. These are all lifecycle hooks. Now in pre-deployment we all know what needs to be done before actually deploying an application. If there's a configuration change needs to be done, anything as such, if you have anything as such that goes in pre-deployment, then you will have your deployment. In your post-deployment you may have a sort of, after the deployment you want to run any sort of unit test cases or any sort of analysis, anything as such that goes in post deployment. If any of the stage fails, on failure what needs to be done, you can define that in on failure. On success, if any of the tasks is successful, what needs to be done post that, everything. So these pre-deploy, post deploy, on failure, on success, this is nothing but these are life cycle hooks. So run one strategy is the simplest deployment strategy in which all these hooks are at least run once. It will go and execute all these hooks at least once, whether it is success or whether it is failure, it will get executed. That is the simplest form of deployment strategy which you will come across. So this will be this strategy fits in everywhere. If you want to apply this strategy in a real time, even it goes there. The only thing is it will go and execute your lifecycle hooks, all the hooks at least once. Okay, now this is your run one strategy. Now if you talk about rolling update, this is very much popular strategy. You will come across this strategy a lot when you talk about Kubernetes and all. So this is a strategy basically taken out from there. Okay, so rolling strategy what exactly it does. Okay, let me show you with a diagram. Okay, so rolling strategy, just imagine this is a group and you got multiple servers. You got 3 servers, for example, and you got your pipelines. Just imagine your build is over here and it has created an artifact. Now your deployment is happening. This is your pipeline, just imagine. Okay, now in the rolling deployment strategy, what happens? The rolling deployment replaces the instance of previous version. What do I mean by that? Let's imagine this is version 1.0 currently running on all your servers. Okay, this is what happening right now. 1.0 is running all your servers. So what it will do, it will replace the instance of previous version of an application with the instance of new version of an application on a fixed set of virtual machine in an iteration. So what does this mean? And when the actual deployment happens, this version will get replaced with a newer version. Just imagine a new version number 1.1, 1.1, something like this. So it will not happen all at once. Okay, it will first happen on these VM. This will happen on this VM first. This got replaced. All the testing and everything will take place over here. Then when this looks good, then the version will change on this VM. If this looks good, then the version will change on this VM. This is how, with zero downtime, there's no downtime with this strategy, guys, keep that in mind. With zero downtime, all your underlying VM will get updated with this rolling update strategy. If suppose there's an issue, you have deployed changes version 1.1 over here and there was some issue with the new version, easily you can roll back to the previous version also, version 1.0. Okay, again, a rolling update replaces the instance of the previous version of an application with the instance of new version of the application on a fixed set of virtual machine in each iteration. Slowly and steadily, all your 3 VMs, I'm just taking an example of 3 VM, will be done. Now this is the default strategy what you have it in Kubernetes, guys. Just an FYI, we are not doing Kubernetes right now, but if you talk about Kubernetes, this is the default strategy which you will find in Kubernetes. That is what the strategy is getting used over here, all thanks to deployment jobs. Now third and the last is the canary one. Okay, so canary deployment strategy is an advanced deployment strategy. So basically that will help you mitigate the risk involved in rolling out new version of an application. So if you're deploying a new version, so what will happen? Your end user, imagine you are an end user over here. So your end user will have sometime, like if you're hitting the server, sometime you'll have a newer change, sometime you'll go to the older change also. This is what the end user will get. Sometime we will get the new feature, like suppose this is the new feature. So some of the subset of the user will get this new feature, some of them will get the old feature, and plus there's a change in version. There are many challenges, like if you have a common database, suppose challenges are the schema should support the newer and the older version, that is known as backward compatibility, and things like that comes in picture. So many technicality comes in picture when you are opting out for rolling updates. Okay, so this is something we need to do it very wisely, and this works, the rolling strategy works with microservice applications mostly. Monolithic, you'll have a difficult time setting up rolling strategy with monolithic. There are many difficulties: backward compatibility, forward compatibility, schema mismatch, and many more. If I just keep on going, if you talk about from the architectural perspective, there are many issues which you will come across. But yeah, this is a very good strategy if you have microservice wherein you're deploying your application on Docker containers or Kubernetes pods, then this is a very good strategy. Now Canary, it's a pretty much advanced strategy. It will help you mitigate the risk involved in rolling out a new version. So by using this Canary, what will exactly happen? You can roll out changes to small subset of servers first. Now suppose imagine you have small subset, so you will have this, you will deploy complete change over here. You can small set of server. As you gain confidence, you can release to more server. So this small subset means small set of users in Canary. So your small set of users will be directed towards the new version in Canary using a route traffic control. The small subset of user will be directed to the new version. They will have a look and feel, and they will give you a go ahead and yeah, this beta version looks good. Then post that, it will be implemented on all the other. Once you gain confidence with Canary, it will be deployed on all the other servers also. This is what Canary means, guys. Okay, in Canary, deployment happens on a small set of servers, basically targeting the smaller audience first, giving them the look and feel of the new feature. Once they have the complete look and feel, they can deploy it on changes on other server also. That is what Canary means. Now where do you get this documentation? I can go on Google, look for deployment jobs in Azure DevOps.
So I have this question. There is this. I don't know if is one of the deployment strategies. The blue green deployment strategy. Is that another deployment strategy?
It
Blue
is
green.
a deployment strategy. Let me. It's
Okay.
a very common strategy. I'll show you what exactly the blue green strategy is all about. Before that,
Okay.
guys, this is the link, a complete documentation where whatever I spoke about, run once, rolling update, and whatever piece of code you see over here, this is what we will be using. This is how, these are all your pre-hooks. As I was talking about lifecycle hooks, pre-deployment hooks, deployment hooks, route traffic, post traffic, on failure, these are all hooks. And this is how the hooks will be used in my YAML. These are how we will be using things in the YAML. Don't worry, I'll guide you through all this. And these are the strategy, rolling deployment strategy. These are the three strategy which is supported by Azure. Hence I spoke about these, Canary and things like this. Okay, go through this for your theory purpose. Let me share this in the chat. Okay, now very good question asked, what is blue green? Okay, now if I talk about blue green, let's talk about a flow. Suppose the flow is something like this. This is your application. This is your local application. I'm talking about local app. This is, you have built your application. Now you deployed your application on a server. This is just have this, not this big. This is just this thing is coming here. This is what. Now this, imagine this is your blue environment. Now this is nothing but your server. This is your application deployed production server. Just imagine this is a production server which is marked as blue right now. It is running in version something 1.0 for now. And in between you have a load balancer which is routing your traffic onto this blue. Okay, this is how a typical blue environment will look like. The blue environment is currently serving the production copy of your application. So anyone outside internet, your clients or anything as such, Like people are trying to access your application from outside, they will come to the request will from the router, the request will go to blue. Okay, not the router, sorry, from the load balancer the request will go to blue. Now there is a change, version 1.1. Now version 1.1, there is a green environment. There is a green environment which is exact replica of your production, and on the green environment you deploy the version 1.1. This is exact replica of prod, something like this. Okay, this is your green environment. Perfect. Now this got deployed version 1.1. You do all sort of testing, integration, this, that, and everything you do over here. Now once you are 100% thorough that this looks good, we are ready to get this thing deployed on real production. Then what will happen? A switch over will happen. What will happen? A switch over will happen, and this part, where's the circle? This part will become green at that time when the switch is happening. This becomes green, and this part becomes blue. And this switch over will happen nothing but on your load balancer. All the requests will be served from here. Now if any request coming in, that will go from your internet to load balancer to this server. This switch, your DNS change, your domain change, all the switch over happen at the load balancer level. So you got two server, one is blue, and every time the blue will have the latest production version running in, and then you'll have green. Whenever there's a change, if the testing everything is done, then the switch over happens. The green becomes blue and the blue becomes green. This is what blue-green strategy is all about. This is very traditional strategy, I would say, not that great. There's no zero downtime also. There is a way to achieve zero downtime, because when the switch is happening, just imagine if there is any live transaction which is going on. Doing the switch, that live transaction may get stopped, may get corrupt, may get deleted, may cause different sort of lockings in your database, which may hamper your performance. Okay, so there are, each strategy has different issues, disadvantage, pros and cons. If you deep dive into from the architectural perspective, if you deep dive, then you'll understand what exactly which strategy suits your requirement. Okay, blue green, sometime yes. So if you have a target of achieving zero downtime, then blue green is not the option, guys. Zero blue, because there is a change when you do a transition from your blue to green, and then at that time there is a transaction loss. You need to completely this doesn't get destroyed, this is getting stopped, all your services get stopped, then you will have this one running. Many will argue that there are sticky versions which you can have, wherein it will take care of your live transaction and things. You can have one more server wherein you can transfer the slowly and steadily you can transfer the session, then you can move on to green. There are many ways, many comments you will find out on Google, and many experts will argue that this is not zero down, this is zero downtime and things like that. It's okay, there is a different route to take if you don't want to achieve zero downtime. But in a layman language, if I tell you, blue green will have some sort of downtime, but that some sort of downtime, if we can overcome with adding different strategies to it, because that comes with a cost, that comes with a development cost, and many things gets involved. Okay, but in a typical manner, while the switch is happening from blue to green, there is a downtime. wherein you will not get that downtime in rolling. There are set of servers. One server goes out and the new version gets installed, and slowly and steadily you will have the new version on all the servers. At that time you will not have this, you will not have zero downtime. But again, it comes with a cost. You need to have a microservice application. You cannot achieve that in monolithic. Okay, in blue green there is a cutover happening. There are many more strategies which I can talk about, but this is the latest strategy which you can come across: rolling, canary, blue green. Keep that in mind. Okay, any questions, any doubt before we move on to actual writing the piece of code? No questions? Okay, let's go and apply. So in this case, I'll be just creating one environment. So we'll use the basic strategy, that is run once. We'll be using run once in our current example, and we'll try to make changes to this YAML file. Okay. Last time I showed you the changes in YAML using a Visual Studio Code. That is one way. You can go and stick with the same way, there's no problem. Now this time I'll show you using, there is a show assistant tab over here, and this editor which you see right now where my cursor is blinking, this is using the same plugin which we were using in the Visual Studio. It has the same plugin inbuilt on the browser. Now if you imagine in your company they have a restriction that you cannot use Visual Studio Code, just imagine, and you're used to. So no need to worry, you can directly go and make changes. This is not recommended, but yeah, if you want to make changes directly inside your YAML using this assistant and making use of this editor, you can do it. That is what I'll show you. We already saw how we do how do we make changes to the Visual Studio Code. So let's go and see this part also now. Okay, so the first thing is, now because I want to add deployment stage also, not just build, so the first thing you do, let me give you an structural background how your deployment will look now, how your YAML will look now. Let me give you a structural background. Now what we were doing, we were adding some triggers at the top, then we had some pool, then we had variables defined, then we had all our steps, correct? In these steps we had multiple steps, such as we had NuGet install, then we got our build, for example, and then we got the publish artifact. These are the steps what we did till now. Okay, hopefully guys, if you have missed my last session, please go ahead and view the recordings, then you'll come to know what exactly we are doing. This is what we did last time. So there are multiple more steps, I'm not adding those. Now the other part is I need to add my deployment steps also. I got this 3 steps which needs to be added. Now can I add directly over here inside these steps followed? So no, that is not the right way. I need to get these steps, because now I got multiple stages. Now we are talking about multi-stage, because you got build one stage, you got deployment second stage. In your deployment you can have multiple environments, dev, QA and things like that. Okay, so this steps thing will not work now. Now this steps needs to be added inside something called as stages. Now you got stages because we are talking about multi-deployment. Now this step will be in stage, you will have multiple steps. Okay, you will have, in stages you will have multiple stage. Your first stage is somewhere, imagine your first stage will be a build stage, wherein your build will take care. Okay, a build stage, so all this part, this will come inside your build. The second stage now will be your release stage. The second stage will be your release stage. Okay, then all your tasks, all your steps related to release will come inside this. What are the tasks? Now the first task is running ARM template. Okay. Second task will be that PowerShell script which we are running for sleep for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever you want. And the third is where your web app is Azure web app deployment. This is how your YAML basic structure will look like. Each stage will have its own name. Each stage, when you go and define this way, each stage will have its own display name, like what exactly this stage is all about. So you'll have something called display name. So this display name is nothing but when you run the stage, it will be visible at the top which stage is currently running. So you can name it as build stage, and it will have, so what did I say? Now these are all parts of deployment jobs. All these are part of deployment jobs. So there is a function which you will using called jobs. Okay. Now the job, what type of job? You can give the job name that you are running a build. This is how you will be defining. Okay. Now the benefit of using this way is you can have, for each stage you already have defined one pool over here, but if you want to define a specific agent pool for each stage, even that is possible. Now if you want to have a pool, a separate pool defined for this stage, why do we use this? I'll tell you the reason. Okay. Now if you want to define a separate pool over here, even that is possible. Now the question is, why do we use a separate pool? Is it required? No. In my case, it is optional. The run which we are doing, it's a very simple ASP.NET run. This is optional. Then who exactly uses this? Firstly, if you want parallelism to be enabled, like if you have multiple stage and you want to run two tasks at a time, then you need to have two pools at a time. So if you have specific pools assigned, then it can go and run jobs in parallel. One scenario. Other scenario, it's a build pipeline. If you have a custom agent pool where it has a specific version of .NET and things running, and you want to use that pool only just to run this build. So where you will define that. So that comes inside over here. There could be multiple other scenarios in which you will be using specific pools for specific purpose. So even that is possible. So this stage which will run, this part will have this pool running it. I can similarly, I can have, even for my release, I can have a pool defined over here. This is more features added to your existing things. Now this is what deployment jobs all about. It will help you run this all in a sequential manner. Okay. This is how things are defined. I don't have to mug up all this, guys. It's there over here. Stages, when you go at the top, strategies, this is all deployment strategies, and you can have stages also. The final, you can also this deployment strategy where it will come. This is all comes over here in the deployment. In the where's my notepad? In the deployment over here, you will have the strategies defined over here. Now let me go and write this YAML first. Let me show you how things goes from here. I'll be using the exact same thing, whatever stages things I have written over here. Exact same thing I'll be using. Let's go and create the build first, and I'm just editing the same thing over here. Okay, so my first three things remain as it is. There's no change. Pool, variables and things don't change. I just start adding things from line number 15. Over here, the first thing I'll add is stages. Okay, I got the stages added. Now I need to go and add the first stage. What is the first stage? I'm doing a build. Okay, now second, if you want to give a display name, again this part is display name is optional. If you want to give it, you can have a display name. There's error, that's why it's not giving me the output, but display name You can give a display name as build stage. You can give whatever name, this is up to you, what name you want to give over here. Now in this, I can have jobs. Jobs is a list of job which we're talking about. Okay. In job, I have a list of job. The first job is build job. What is the first job? Is a build job. If you want to give a display name to your job also, then it's a good practice. This display name is nothing but, guys, this is kind of a print statement. So initially when you're writing everything, make sure to put the display name, because what will happen when the pipeline will get executed, at that time you'll see this display name everywhere. You can see the name, which task is running, where it is, where my task got failed, and things like that. So this is what practice when you write a piece of code. At that time we put print statement everywhere, so that we at least know where we are, where my code went, where my code failed, and things like that. So this is what the display name is all about. It will give you an idea where exactly things are right now. So again, if you want to give a display name over here, make sure to give this display name is for this job. This display name was for the stage. Okay. So don't get confused. Display name, I can have something called, you can give whatever name you want to give. So build job, anything as such. So I'll just name it as build for now. And as I said, if you want to use an agent pool which is specific to this stage, this is the right place to use the agent pool in the jobs itself. If you want to use the agent pool, I can have the agent pool as VM image. In my case, this was not required and just an FYI, but in reality, you may end up getting such request wherein you will have a different agent pool for your build, a different agent pool for your deployment. In reality, I'm talking about. So if ever you get such request, this is how it happens. Windows latest. Okay. Now all your task, this remain as it is, guys. This steps remain as it is. There's no change in your steps. The only thing I'll do, I'll just highlight everything. I'll just do a tap, and I'll just move everything inside jobs. What I'll do, I'll move everything inside jobs. That is what I'll do. That's it. Inside jobs I'll put it, and if I go and look into this, give a space, still one point out. Let me just highlight everything and let me put one more tab. This error. This is steps. This is why this error I'm getting. This warning, this is a warning sign, guys. It's not an error exactly, but it's a warning sign. There could be some extra spaces somewhere. Okay, that's okay. Ignore it. Okay, that's okay. Now this becomes your build pipeline. This becomes your build. Let me save this and run it and see if it's working. Okay, what did we add? The only thing we added, these line of codes along with stages. Okay, now I can just try run this code and see if it is working, just to do a quick test. If not, then we may have to make few other amendments. Okay, let me save this. My pipeline will not automatically run because we have conditions, path filter condition, so I believe it will not run, and it's not running as expected. Let's go and look into the YAML now. Let me see if everything is looking good. Okay, this is my main. Let's go to develop. stages, stage, display name, job name, steps, that is within the stage, build stage. Okay, I know the mistake now. Why the warning was. The warning was because of these all should be within the stage. The steps and everything should be within the stage. That's why the warning was. So guys, this is something we need to move it along and put it within the stage. Come back. One more. Now the error is gone. So where exactly this stage was? It was over here first. So this means if you keep things steps over here, this means it is in the same with stage. So even stage is parent, even steps is parent. Now these steps are child process of this stage. So it should be within the jobs. It should fall within the jobs over here. It should fall. Now if you see, the warning is gone. Okay. So this is the indentation which I was talking about. You have to make sure the indentation is perfect. Now this steps, again repeating, this steps is a child process of this job. So if the job is getting executed, these are the step which is getting executed within it. Okay, so it should be under the jobs, not over here. That is the reason I was getting the warning before. Okay, let's save it. Now let's go and see the YAML again. Okay, stage, display name, jobs. Now within the jobs we got one job, that is build job, and then we got the steps. These are the steps which we need to execute. Perfect. Now let me quickly test this by running it manually. Okay, the build is running right now. Now if you see the display name, do you see this build display name, the build stage? Okay, this was a display name for my stage. Then I gave a display name to my build. Correct? The display name was somewhere. What was the display name? The job build display name was build. That build is visible over here. Build stage and build. This is all thanks to the display name why you're getting all this. That's why it's always good practice to give display name wherever you want. Now your build has started. Now this is your build. If you see the build, this is your job display name. Hence the build thing is coming. Whatever you write, it will come over here. Now if you go to your previous pipelines, what was the naming convention? It was something job. If you want something to write with job, you can do that also. But this time I did the customization and had my own name, that is build. Now build was successful. There is no issue with my build pipeline. Now this was not the only purpose. I want to add my deployment steps also. Now the main part comes in. This build is something you have already seen it multiple times. Now the main thing comes over here, the other stage. So we got multiple stages, correct? Now I need to add my deployment stage. Now the deployment stage, again it's a stage, correct? So I will have something called list stage, and I can have a display name. The display name I can name it as release stage. I can name this stage as release, the way we have named build at the top. We have named build, correct? Now this becomes my release. Okay, now again jobs, list of jobs. The only difference over here is in build we had jobs and list of jobs. In release, we have jobs but list of deployment. In build it is job, in release it is deployment. Then only you can go and use deployment strategy. Again reiterating, in build it is list of jobs, in deployment it is list of deployment. Okay, again if you want to use a VM agent pool, a customized agent pool for yourself, this is the place wherein you can put it. Okay, this is again optional, depends upon what type of project you're working. If they have any such requirement, you can use it. If you're not providing the agent pool, it will go and use the agent pool which is defined at the top. This is what it will go and use in short, if you're not providing anything. Now this is done. Now there's one strategy called deployment group strategy. Okay, so that is the environment, you need to define it over here. Now I'll talk about deployment group later. For now, you need to define your environment, whether it's a dev environment, QA environment, the way we were defining over here in my releases. We were defining, correct? Dev, QA, things like that we were defining. This is something we were defining. Now same thing, I can have something like this, the same thing created over here. I'll name it as environment. See, I can name it as, let's imagine this is dev. Now the strategy comes over here. You can define the strategy, what type of strategy and things like that, you can define it over here. If you want, you can come and select the strategy, and if you come down, it will give you, as soon as you come to the right place, it will give you 3 strategies: canary, rolling, run once. These are the 3 strategy which is supported by Azure DevOps. So select run once for now. This is the simplest strategy which you can start with, and you can have all the hooks: pre-deploy hooks, route traffic, post-deploy hook, on failure, on success. All the hooks comes inside strategy. Now in this, I don't have a pre and post anything as such. The only thing I want deployment. I want to use the lifecycle hook deploy. But what exactly deploy means? Used to run steps that deploy your application. Okay, this is what deploy hook is all about. Okay, in deploy, now your steps will come in, all your 3 steps. All your 3 steps will come in. Okay, what are the steps? Let me put in steps now. So what is the first task inside your step? ARM template deployment, correct? That is your first task. So I'll have, so there one way you do it by yourself. You go and look for Azure, something like this, Azure Resource Manager template, that is the name, Azure Resource Manager template, this one. Or if you don't remember all this, you will say it is very difficult to remember this naming convention. How will I know? It's a very good thought. If you don't know, remove this part, come to this part, show assistant. This is why I am using this editor right now. This is why I am showing you this editor, because this great option over here will give you the task automatically. This is something you will not get it in Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, you'll have to remember what exactly the task is, the template task, and you need to go and select that. Over here, you just need to write ARM template. That's it. Click over here, fill in the information, service connection, subscription, action, resource group. As if now I'm hard coding the resource group. Now let me not hard code. I'll not hard code. I'll make use of variables. Now remember we were using variables over here. Same thing I can do it over here also. Let me just name this as dollar, open bracket, close bracket. I'll define it later. resource group, something like this. Okay, I'm just doing it right now. Later I'll show you how do we define it. Location, East US or anything if you want. Select West US, whatever you want. Linked artifact. Now there is one more problem over here. Now over here, if you go into the release and if you go to your task, we had an option to select, correct? We had an option that I click on these 3 dots and I can go and select my artifacts, my template. Now how do I select over here? There's no anything as such. There's no 3 dots and anything. Plus there's no build right now. Over here we was giving a build, correct? There was a build attached to my release. What about over here? There's no build and anything as such attached. How do I define my templates over here? Okay, that is one question. Now before that, let me complete this part. How do I define variables? So it's very easy. We have already defined one of the variables. I'll just have one more variable. I can have a resource group name. This is what I have copied, correct? Let me remove all this. Resource group, and I can have my resource group defined over here. Let's name it as devopsmela -rg. Now what will happen? And this is something I'm calling it inside my task. How do we call? Resource group. Okay. Now this is the place where the variable plays a very important role. This is how you will be defining variables. Now there are multiple places in this YAML. There are multiple places in build pipeline in a YAML wherein you can define variables. The one which I am doing it right now, this is the right place, guys. You will see a variable tab over here also. If you're doing a variable, the variable scope will be limited to this pipeline. The scope of the variable will be limited to the pipeline. If you define it over here, the scope will be this variable will be part of your YAML file, and the YAML file is part of your Git repository, and the Git repository source code you can share it with anyone and you can reuse with anyone. So even the variable goes over there. Okay, so keep this in mind. Now the other part, difficult area, was how do we get my template over here. Now for this, just go to predefined variables again, and there is a predefined variable known as pipeline dot workspace. Pipeline dot workspace is the local path on the agent where all folders for a given build pipeline are created. What exactly this pipeline workspace is? The local path on the agent where all folders for the given build pipeline are created. Remember _work directory when we were setting up our own custom pipeline? This is the same location where your source code are there. So when we put your source code, even my template is part of my source code now. So even my template file will be over here. Don't you think? Yes. So this is the predefined variable which I need to go and use it. Okay. And I'll be using something called dollar open bracket close bracket, and I'll having pipeline.workspace followed by the drop location where my files are getting kept, in the drop location, correct? In my build drop location. Now after drop location, where exactly my files are going, I have no idea. Okay, then I can use something called **. Okay, and then I can use my template name. What is the name of my template? What is the name of my template? This is the name. I can use this name. This way I'll get my template file. Same thing I'll apply for even my parameter files. Same thing I'll apply for my parameter file. The only thing I'll change is my parameter file name. This way I'll have it. Now if you want to overwrite, again the same thing. This is something I want you guys to try by yourself. Overwrite, wherein I have these things defined with the variables defined over here. If you want to do it, then again go and define all the variables first, then get the override values over here. If you want, try it for yourself. One, I have showed you how things are done. Second, this override template parameter, exactly the same thing you need to do what you did in over here. Exactly the same thing you need to do, nothing different guys, nothing different. Just go, and the only difference is you were defining the variables over here, just define the variables inside this. Mode, deployment mode is incremental. Come down, make sure you are at the right place, click on add, done. You got your task added. This will go and create ARM template for you. It will create an Azure web app. Let's go and test this. Let me save this. Let me go and run this manually. Why we are running manually? We have a trigger. We have a trigger, but we got a path filter wherein there should be a change inside the application. I don't want to do that change for now. Now do you see this good looking multi-stage? You got your build stage now, and you got your release stage. Build stage is running, and if you go inside jobs, this is how it looks like. This is how all thanks to your multi-stage. This is how things will start looking in. Multi-stage, see this? You got multi-stage. One of the stages running right now. Okay, so let's wait and see what's happening. Anyone? Questions? There are a lot of things we did today, guys. This requires a lot of practice to get this thing thorough. Okay, if you want all this to be part of your daily activity, you need to practice this a lot. Let me tell you, whatever YAML you have written, whatever application you work, you will have similar set of stages, deployment, and everything will be very similar, nothing different. But you need to make sure that you go and practice this. Without practice, you will not understand anything. Okay, your build is done. Now your release will start, but initially when you run the release, it will ask for your approval. This is just because it is using the resources on cloud, hence it is asking for your approval. This is one-time activity. I can have permit this. Now this will go and create a deployment environment dev, and it will start the deployment stage. I'll talk about deployment groups later in tomorrow's session. For now, this is just a one-time activity of permitting. Later if I run this again, it will not ask for my permission. Okay, this is not like the pre-approval, post-approval, nothing as such. You can add the pre-approval and post-approvals the way you were doing it over here also. That is something we'll discuss later. For now, let's stick with a simple deployment now. Okay, the deployment is in place. If you see this artifact downloaded, your ARM is running right now. Okay, let's wait. See this. Okay, any questions? No questions, guys? The deployment is still running. Okay. Okay, it got created. We have the SP name. Your web app is still getting created. Yeah, web app is also created. Still, let me refresh this complete browser. App service. You see the web app is created. From where did it take the name? It took the name from the template file. We have defined the name in parameter file, correct? This is the naming which it took. DevOpsmela dev 123 123 and DevOpsmela SP. That's your SP name. SP name. It took the name from your template file. Now if you go and look into the logs, build stage, release stage, and both are successful. This is all in one. If you go in jobs, these are the two jobs which we have executed, build and deploy. This is how you will be running everything at in one single place. And this YAML file what you see now, this is all done. It has all your tasks. This is having your multi-stage deployment. Now as of now we have a line of code of 72. Tomorrow there are 2 more tasks which I need to add. If I go and add, the line of code will be somewhere around 100 plus. Okay, so this is something you need to go and practice by yourself. Without practice no one will understand anything. Go see the deployment.file, what exactly it is. Go and try to write this out by yourself. Understand what exactly these new syntax which I've added, what exactly these are. Understand this, then go and write things by yourself. When you understand this, then there's no stopping. After that, this Java and all what we'll do, it will be very easy cake for you. Follow the same strategy and then write your YAML build pipeline and release pipeline. Makes sense? This is something what you will do in real time. Keep this in mind. This is something you will be doing it in real time. Okay, that's it for me. If anyone has any question, please do let me know. I know there are multiple doubts, but till the time you don't practice, those doubts will not be cleared. So let me know if anyone has any questions, because I'm just leaving things for now as it is. Tomorrow we'll continue where we left from the ARM. We'll do the actual deployment and we'll see further. Okay, anyone has any question, let me know, or we can wind up the call for today. Anyone guys, any question? No one? Okay, no problem. Make sure to practice, and definitely I should get questions tomorrow once you do the practice. If still not getting question, that means no one is practicing, guys. That is a straightforward answer. Because if you don't practice, 101% sure you'll not understand anything in Java. Because Java, not just build and release, there are 10 more tasks we will be adding. Code coverage, JUnit test, Sonar queue, Sonar publish, Sonar clear, Sonar. So there are n number of Sonar queue tasks which will be adding same YAML file. And if you don't practice this basic thing now, forget about the advanced topics. So make sure, and I'll be giving you off in between after tomorrow's session. So I'll give you 1 day off in between just to practice. If you guys are lagging behind, make sure to go and practice and come back when we start with the new topic. So I'll not start the new topic until you guys go and get this thing sorted. Okay, hopefully that helps. Thank you very much. Bye bye.